This is Convo by Design, where we explore the ideas, people, and projects shaping the future of design. But you know that. I imagine this is why you listen each week, to hear stories behind the design. One of the things I have been thinking about lately is how ideas, feelings, and purpose can change over time. When I started the show in January of 2013, I thought I was speaking to design and architecture clients, homeowners really, who wanted to learn about the stories behind design of the creatives that they could hire to work for them. From the response I received almost immediately, I realized it was the trade I was speaking to. Well, that's who was listening. And it was that way for years. It was probably around 2015 or 2016 that homeowners were listening and speaking to their designers about imbuing their stories into the work. Personalizing, which prior to that was still seen as a detriment to resale. How personalizing, making crazy wild colors, fun shapes can hurt resale in design. And I feel that idea is pretty much gone now. And that's a good thing. This is the rise of individuality. In this episode, I'm speaking with Lindsie Davis, the creative force behind Blueberry Jones, a design firm based in Texas. Lindsie's story is rooted in its authenticity. An interior designer who once felt uncomfortable in the spotlight, but found herself pulled into a public-facing role by the very nature of her work. Her creative journey weaves through fashion, art, education, and eventually full-scope interior design, fueled by instinct, passion, and an unwavering desire to craft spaces with soul. From her first unexpected design job at a paint store to launching a firm amid the uncertainty of 2020, Lindsie has learned to change, and she's thrived in it. We talk about her evolution from the suburbs of Dallas to the creative haven of Wimberley, the cultural rise of Texas design, and the very real challenges and rewards of running a design business in a rapidly growing, ever-shifting market like Austin. This is a conversation that also dives deep into kitchens. Yes, white kitchens, colorful kitchens, and how even the smallest design decisions can echo with intention and meaning. Lindsie's perspective is one of quiet confidence shared by creativity, hard-earned business acumen, and a genuine love for making homes better, one thoughtful layer at a time. And you're going to hear from Lindsie Davis of Blueberry Jones right after this. The most important word in the design industry today is service. Product, incredibly important. Price, important. Selection, incredibly important. But stellar service is the premier idea that can make all the difference in the success of any project. This is how design professionals like you demand great service for your projects. And you get your favorite brands in one place with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commissioned professionals to help you specify the right product for each of your projects and get the best price. Non-commissioned, that is incredibly important. And at Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, that means their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that with over 60 years of service in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, inspiration, all the best brands, great prices, the best in the industry when it comes to service, and you know it's reliable. You know that you are going to get predictable results, reliable results every time. And now you have the Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team to help you with their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you've ever experienced before. Earn 3% in Best Buy e-gift cards or 2.5% in a reward check for every qualified and delivered sale, in addition to special trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, and so much more that I can't even begin to try and list it all here. And here's the cherry on top. Access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands and the stellar service you deserve from a company that has been serving the industry for over 60 years. Now, terms and conditions apply to the Pro Rewards program and builder trade incentives. So visit a Pacific sales expert at a showroom today for full details and learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. The best place in the world to start. Have you done a podcast yet?
I've done one, yes.
Okay.
And I made
And
up some words because that's how nervous I get.
you get nervous, really?
Yeah,
What is it like for you when you meet clients for the first time? Do you get nervous then?
absolutely. Yes.
Really?
Um, I am very much, I like to be behind the scenes. And so when I'm put out in front, that's like very hard for me. So
Interesting. Yet you chose a profession,
yes,
a
I did.
creative endeavor where you have to
Yes,
put yourself out in front first and
yes.
foremost all the time.
Yes, and I am trying to do. I've hired people to help me with that. Like I'm getting better.
Well,
I'm
listen, it's all we
going
can
up
do,
to.
right?
Right, right. That's right.
How did you wind up doing this in the first place? Why?
It's just kind of something that's always been a part of who I am. I love creating spaces, but it was never anything that I ever thought would be an actual career. I started out in art. I thought that I was a printmaking was my emphasis, and I thought that I was going to actually go into textiles design because prior to that, I actually went to school for a couple years for fashion design. And so I wanted to do something with fashion and textile design. And then the road led to be an art teacher. And then my true inner passion came out and I started creating interiors.
What happened? What happened to make that transition take place?
I just feel like I was kind of bored and we had purchased our second home and I was designing it like I would. And when you have people come over and they're like, oh my gosh, I love this, what do you, I'm like, yeah, I did it, whatever. You don't think about it as being like something great. And then people start asking me to do it for them, and so it's like, well, I enjoyed it so much that why not try to go for it? And so an opportunity came along.
What was your first job that you got paid for? Like not like doing a refresh for a friend, or what was the first gig that you got paid to do as an interior designer?
Yes, that was a new construction job in Wimberley, which is actually the town that I live in now. It's how I ended up moving here. And it was a colleague, a former colleague of mine. I ran into her and she was like baffled at a paint store, just not sure what to do. And I was like, oh, well, let me help you, whatever. And we weren't super close. I mean, we were friends, but we were like colleagues. And then I got a phone call from her a few weeks later and she's like, I am building a house. I need help. And I'm like, okay, I have this much experience. Like at that point, I was a design assistant prior and I had done, come in at jobs when they were kind of during construction. So I didn't have so much of the knowledge of the pre-con world. And so I was just super upfront and I was like, if you want to take a risk, I would love the opportunity. And that is where I actually found the love for construction as well as furniture, because creating from the beginning was just such an amazing experience.
Just out of curiosity, during the process, how did you learn the business side of it? How did you learn all the things that I never really talk about on the show, just because this is not a business show. And I tell people all the time, like, don't listen to a podcast about interior design if you want to learn how to build your business. Go listen to a business podcast about
Yeah.
that. But I am curious, with your background, how did you how did you structure it? How did you learn to structure it? And I ask the question specifically because, especially now, and I don't know if you're up on current events when it comes to this in particular, but there's a couple of lawsuits that are going around right now about designers' contracts, designers' copyright and IP infringement. There's a lot of things now that I feel like designers have to be concerned about that have been issues for years, but now they're coming to the fore and the forefront. And so I'm just curious how you structured your business and why you structured it that way.
Um, so in terms of like financial side of how I
No,
charge,
like
or just
like
in terms of,
billing by the hour, is it cost plus? Is it,
yeah.
and working with partnerships and partners on behalf of your clients? I'm just curious how you sort of came about.
So the very first job that I took was I did a flat fee, because it was just like, hey, and it was very, I like charged very minimal, and it was just, I knew it was going to get my foot in the door. From there, I charged hourly because I was unsure of how to structure my business at that point. It wasn't until 2 years into that realizing like this does not work for me. And I took a course, for interior designers by Sandra Funk. And that is how I figured out that I wanted to be a flat fee structured designer. And that course was very beneficial for me. So I would say trial and error, and then I took a course.
No, I think that's
Really
great.
learn.
When was that? What year was that?
It was 2020, 2020. I was in like one of her first programs.
It's funny too, starting a business and really trying to figure out what your business is going to be and how you're going to do it as the world is ending.
Mhm.
You
It
probably
was
felt like,
scary.
what am I doing? What am I
Yeah.
doing here?
It was scary. So I officially started my business in 2018, but it wasn't until 2020 that I was like, okay, this is growing to a point where I've got to figure it out, right? It was no longer just, little job, one rooms here and there. And so you're right, because at that point, not only did I decide this is now my career, but I also, my family, we uprooted to a new town, bought land, had no home, and I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and my child was starting school. Like life had totally changed for us. And I was just like, wow. I mean, you know how to put crazy in the mix of it all. So, the funny thing is though, in 2020, that was when my business boomed and it took off. So I'm so thankful that right prior to that, I said, okay, it's time to figure this out. And I signed up for this course, and I learned about it on Luann Nigaro's podcast.
Sure.
And I was like, it's now or never, like, let's do it. And from there, it has just gone, gone.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Okay, so what town are you in now?
So I'm in Wimberley, and it is in Texas. I'm right south of Austin. I'm like 40
Oh,
minutes outside
okay. All
Austin.
right.
So I work in Austin. I work both areas, but a lot.
But you were raised in Dallas.
I was raised in McKinney, north of Dallas.
Okay. All right. How'd you like growing up in the Metroplex?
It was fun. I definitely prefer where I am now. But you know, I think Dallas is really cool. It has a lot of fun stuff. Growing up in the suburb of Dallas was great for a family, but it's kind of, there's no fun architecture and design. It's all cookie cutter. And so I wasn't really exposed much to like um, a real design world until I really started my career. My grandmother was a great natural designer. She would build houses and have historic renovations and stuff. And so that was, I guess I kind of grew up around it, but
Oh, that's amazing. I asked the question because I lived in Dallas for 9 years,
mhm.
two different tours, if you will. And it's really interesting. One of the things that I love about Dallas, now I first moved there in the mid 90s. and then moved back early 2000s. Um, what I really like about Dallas is, Texas is so unique and interesting. You have Houston and Fort Worth, which is old money, very traditional. You
Mhm.
have Austin, which is just weird and funky, and you got both sides, and it's a completely different vibe. Then you have Dallas, which is kind of like the little brother to Houston and Fort Worth, and it wants so badly to be cool and hip. And this is back in the 90s, early 2000s. But because of that, it reminded me of growing up in LA, where you can try new things. Dallas
Mhm.
has always been one of those cities where you could try new things. I was a music rep for The Edge, a radio
Oh, yeah.
station,
Yeah.
and
Used to go to Edge Fest.
I Edge Fest. It's part of my life that I absolutely
Yeah.
love that. But I also loved Deep Ellum. It
Yeah.
reminded me of Hollywood, where you could
Mhm.
have a new club come in and see if it works. It was also the same with architecture and design. And yes, to your point, we lived in Valley Ranch and had, built a brand new house that was brick that looked like every other house in Valley
Mhm.
Ranch. And you didn't have to do that though, because you had other communities where architecture and design were at the fore. And now Dallas is really it's a world-class art and architecture and cultural city, which I think is fantastic.
Mhm.
But when people look at Texas, I think they just see, you know, traditional brick buildings, even today, those who haven't been. So I ask about that because I'm wondering what the creative impetus was for you, where you found creativity and where this drove you to do what you're doing today. Because in a little bit we're gonna explore some of your work,
Okay.
and I think I love your work. I think it's really interesting, and so I'm
Thank
just
you.
curious where that came from.
Um, wow. I would say fashion is really where it all started for me. As a kid, I studied the big designers. I would watch fashion runway show that would come on Saturday mornings. I was that was always intriguing to me, but it was more about the textiles and the patterns and the layering. And as a kid, I would drive my mom crazy because I would always want to redo my room. I would paint murals on my wall. Like it was like, we went to San Francisco and I came back and I was like Coca-Cola themed and old Hollywood. Like it was, I just always had these ideas going. And at the same time too, like when we moved to Texas, I was in third grade and my mom was a nurse and she had to be working the day the movers were coming. And I created a whole floor plan layout, walked it out with my feet, had the movers put everything where it went, hang art. Like it's just always been in me that interior side. And I think a lot of that comes from my grandmother. She was an avid antique shopper. And we would always have to go with her to Miss Trudy's and different places and shop. And so I think just both of those things kind of pushing together is where it happened. And when I went to school for fashion design, I realized quickly I didn't want to sew anymore. And that's when I segued into art because I had all these credits, and my parents were like, "You're not going to have 7 years in college. Like, you need to figure something out that you can do with what you have." And so I was like, I'll be an art major. I've already have all these drawing classes underway. Like, perfect. And so that's when art kind of really became a push in my life. I never took an art class until I went to college. And so that was kind of like something I never knew I was actually talented at until it just came before me. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I don't know if that
Interesting.
answered
So
your
what do you
question.
think what do you think about what has become of it's it's funny for years. I did a spinoff of Convo by Design called Lone Star House of Design. And I
Mhm.
think I started Lone Star 2015, 2016 maybe, where it was interesting because my background in Texas, I had seen such amazing designers and architects and creatives, and I never saw anything in AD. I never saw anything in any of the trade pubs. Texas got no love for the longest time, and I want to say it was only really uh, during the pandemic when editors of some of these magazines didn't really have a choice. but to go look elsewhere
Hmm.
for talent. And it was almost like a eureka moment. I've talked to a lot of them for it was like a eureka moment where they're like, "Oh, Texas, it's amazing. There's some great design there." It's like, yeah, there is, and it's part of because of the way that the state, that whole "don't mess with Texas" thing is not just a vibe. Like that's a law. Like that is how people. It's how people think. And
Yeah.
so you can try things and you can do things, and there's a sense of it's not entitlement, but a I don't know what you would call it, but there's a love for the state of Texas. There's a certain Texas state pride, right? And because of that, all of this amazing work, but all these communities are so different. Um, Being in Austin now has got to be incredibly inspirational for you. But I'm curious too how you feel about this mass influx of others into the state and what that does for your business.
Um, so it's great because it does keep the business thriving. We have no shortage of projects right now, which is a wonderful thing happening. Austin's growing by the second. But yes, it definitely has changed in the sense of, we do get a lot of people from California coming in, so that vibe is different. Um, Not bad. It is just it's not as funky and adventurous as what Austin used to be, I would say. But there are different pockets of Austin that still thrive on that, and that part I do love. I do think it's great too, though, because with the different challenges of different design loves coming in, it challenges me to be creative and think differently. And for me, that's the best part. I don't like for any of my projects to be the same. And so I think that it allows me the opportunity to have different worlds that I can create in. So I think it's positive in the sense that like I welcome it. I like having the challenge and it's different.
What is the state of specifically Austin design right now? Because you reached a point where infill projects were kind of gone after Austin's one of those cities that people keep rediscovering, and I think
Mhm.
it's because it's a state capital, and so you have transient people coming in and out, and because it's a huge college town, and again
Mhm.
that you have people coming in and out, so you have people who are introduced to this incredible city. And then, of course, once you see a city and you realize how wonderful it is, then you want to live there, right?
Right.
So there was this huge influx again during the pandemic, and everything was snapped up, right? So now there's no infill, but you get further out into Bee Cave, and and further out, which is great, but it becomes almost Dallas-like,
Yeah.
where I mean, Dallas is almost we're almost to the Oklahoma border at this point
Right.
between Frisco and McKinney. We're
And
almost we're
Sherman
almost
and all
there,
that. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's Oklahoma pretty much.
right? But how, especially with the Gigafactory and Tesla moving in, and a number of other uh, companies that have moved into Austin, how has that changed the city, and how has it changed it creatively?
So I definitely think the architecture has changed in that sense, because there are different styles coming in with it. But at the same time, we are tearing down a lot more because there isn't land. And I think that, there's pros and cons to that. So I do feel that that's really hard too I'm not a true Austinite. I didn't live here my whole life and grow up here, but for people that do and have seen it, that's got to be really hard. You look at where like the downtown area, Rainy Street, all of that, and so much of that has changed now. I mean, the skyline downtown just changes on a daily. It's crazy. And so I do feel that that can be a difficult transition, but that's really what's happening is we have no room to grow. And so you are now making the choice to buy things and tear down.
Or you go up, and I think that
Yeah.
that is an inevitability for Austin.
Hmm. Oh yeah. The downtown, like the skyline area is just, it's crazy. The amount of condos, projects and stuff that are coming in. And then all down South Congress now. There's condos going all in that direction too, on the other side of 35, which has never been before. And so all these little iconic places are sadly, being taken up.
Yeah. So listen, one of the things that I absolutely love to do is to do sort of an exploration with you and some of your projects. And for those who are listening, you know the drill. Go to the show notes and you can click on the link to blueberryjones.com on the portfolio page and look at some of these projects with us. Because I think it's really interesting how you can talk to someone and get to know them a little bit, especially about their ideas and design, and then go look at their design and you can see some of the through lines, which I think is just really fascinating. And the first one I wanted to start with, especially on the heels of KBIS this year, is Corey Cactus Drive.
Okay.
Now, with this particular project, um, did you just do the kitchen or did you do the whole project?
This was just a kitchen.
This is, well, don't say just a kitchen because I think it's funny. So, and I say this over and over, but it's so true. Every year, at the end of the year into the beginning of the new year, there are all the lists,
Mhm.
right? All the lists that every magazine and every website put out. Here are the 10 things that you're never going to see again in 2025. Here's the top 20 things that you're going to be seeing everywhere in
Mhm.
2025. Inevitably, on both lists, generally towards the top, is the white kitchen.
White kitchens. Mhm.
It is amazing to me. It's one of those things that I do wish people contributors would stop doing that. At the same time, it would take away a years long running gag for me.
Mhm.
So I kind of hope they do it. They continue to do it. But in this
Yeah.
case, my personal belief is that, and professional, is that as long as there are clients that want a white kitchens will continue to be popular. Fair?
Right. Fair.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
Corey Cactus Drive isn't it, it's just it's a clean white space, but it's detailed, it's intricate. And I'm curious, for whom did you design this and walk me through it a little bit?
Okay, so this project was designed for a family of four, and the kitchen actually started out super dark and brown with yellow walls. So the transformation is huge. Um, and the fun thing about this is a little backstory. This house was taking place at the same time as Ambrosia, which is a little bit further down in my portfolio. They are neighbors. So I had these two projects happen at the same time and they're completely opposite of each other, which I love because again, it stretches me in different ways. So starting with Corey Cactus, she is an organizer by like natural abilities, like everything in her house was labeled. Um, it was just amazing to see such like just this world of like peace and harmony with her daily life, but the kitchen screamed just chaos because it had like all these finishes that didn't match, buttery yellow walls. Like it was just, wow, it did not speak to who lived in the home. Now I think it's a true reflection of the client. But yeah, she was both of my clients, majority of my clients just allow me to create the canvas, which I really appreciate because I did take a more minimalist approach with things and restrain more, especially in comparison to the neighbor's home. But that's what I love. I mean, just like everything down to the lighting. She has like more of that transitional feel. So the lighting, I didn't want it to be overstated, but I wanted to still have a touch of modern to it. And the oak just brings in a little softness. This is very much, if you ask me, a California vibe.
Oh, 100%.
you
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah. I have some questions for you.
Okay.
You mentioned the lighting.
Mhm.
So, and it's hard from the imagery to know what you're not seeing, but what I'm not seeing is I'm not seeing any recessed. what else am I not seeing? Is there under cabinetry? Is
Yes.
there under shelf lighting?
Yes. So all the plugs and all the lighting have been recessed and flush mounted to the shelves and the underside of the cabinets. So that's where all of that is housed. We do have recessed can lights.
You do.
They're just not in the picture. They were edited out. That's,
Okay. Pet peeve.
I know.
Total pet peeve. Well, I mean, look, here's the thing. And by the way, it's not wrong. It's one of those things. And I get it. I totally understand. First of all, let me back up a second. Do you shoot every project?
No.
How do you decide?
Um, some of them just the completion doesn't happen to the end in the sense of a lot of my projects I furnish. And so obviously a kitchen or a bath, it's a different situation. But some of my construction projects, if they don't furnish and they move all their stuff in, then it's harder to come in and shoot. So really it just depends on if it reflects a completed project or not.
You are listening to my conversation with Lindsie Davis of Blueberry Jones. We'll be right back. At the highest level of design, the absolute best specifying designers, architects, landscape designers are all highly focused on the technology and performance of products and materials today. You have to, because the products you specify for your projects have to perform and they have to last. That's one of the reasons why I am so proud to be working with TimberTech. Their focus on the technical renaissance of synthetic decking is literally changing the conversation about innovation and performance. It pulls focus on three priorities homeowners have and expect from the products their designers and architects specify for their luxury projects. One, aesthetics must match the overall design and fit visually. Two, durability and maintenance. I've told you about my board flipping stories from my own wood decks. Clients not only want beauty, but they want ease and ease of use, and they want it to last for decades. Three, sustainably made. Clients are more conscious of the environment now, and they want the same of their materials. TimberTech hits each one of these elements with a product that not only meets expectations, they exceed them. TimberTech makes a synthetic decking that looks just like wood, color and embossed wood grain for a natural appearance. Their composite decking is technologically superior, as it has been created to last for decades, and it's manufactured with up to 85% recycled material. Their advanced PVC, vintage, and landmark collections have a Class A flame spread rating, making these products an amazing choice for wildfire-prone areas, which unfortunately continues to grow on the risk map. Check the show notes for more information about this and to find the nearest showroom or lumberyard where you can find TimberTech, or you can check them out directly, timbertech.com. The idea about the edit, and I understand how important the edit is, especially if, and clearly with this project, you're styling it before you're shooting it.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious to edit out anything like that. Like outlets, okay. All right, I get it. But the lighting is part of your lighting plan, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how do you make the decision to edit that out? And why do you do that? And again, let me just this is like stream of consciousness. It's not
Hmm.
it's not right or wrong. It's just one of those things that I find interesting. Like if you had another client that was looking at this particular kitchen saying, "Oh, well, the lighting plan doesn't totally work for us." And then you can go back and explain it, but you
Right.
can't really demonstrate it. So I'm just curious
Right.
why.
That's a great question and one I've never thought about because it's always from the day of starting shooting projects, it's just kind of been an auto that the ceiling's cleaned up. Just that I learned through a photographer. And so now you bring a really good point. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. I don't even think about it. Like I truly don't. So I think it just when you're looking at the stillness of the photo though, by not having now, I guess if you're doing like architectural lighting through, really cool recessed tech lighting, things like that. Like that's a little bit different versus just like a, 4-inch recessed can light. I think it just quiets the photo personally, but I've never thought of it in a sense that I should have it because someone may be looking at the lighting plan like that.
Yeah, well, and but at the same time, the outlets too, and by the way, I you have to follow a certain aesthetic that
Hmm.
is your eye as a designer. So you kind of have to do that. But also if you're looking at something for performative value and
Hmm.
saying, well, if there are no outlets on the, and of course there are, but if there are no outlets on the backsplash, then how am I going to plug in appliances, phones,
Right.
screens, what have you? Um, and sometimes it's because the outlets themselves were so cleverly hidden, almost like a panel ready refrigerator.
Right.
It's like I've been in projects before where I literally could not find a refrigerator. It took me a minute.
Yeah.
So I don't take anything for granted. But I love this project. I
Thank you.
I love I am a huge fan of the white kitchen. And so I love this one, which is usually why I start with it. But I also love that you brought up ambrosia because that was also on my list of things that I
Okay.
wanted to go over with you. And we'll start with the kitchen because this is not your white kitchen.
No, it's not. So I love this project. I love this client. This client was one of my first clients during, I guess it was, we started in 2019 and then with their bathroom, and then we did the remodel during the pandemic. So that was a bit challenging. It was also during a time when I was growing my business. So I was contracting work, which I do not do now. Um, and so it was, they had great trust in me and I really appreciate that. And when they called me to come back and do their kitchen, I was just super excited because I knew they were going to let me be adventurous, and they did. They just said, so they had recently done a pool in their backyard and they made it like a lagoon and they have all this lush vegetation around it and stuff. And so they were like, we want it to be an experience and be a part of the exterior world. And again, this kitchen started out cookie cutter, dark, you know, no, this one had white cabinets, I think. They actually had white cabinets. Um, and so I found this wallpaper and that started it all.
So the wallpaper started it all, and then the teal cabinetry, the
Hmm.
and just everything about this kitchen. I love it. And you know what's funny is I've spoken with clients before, and I love talking to clients
Hmm.
because the way some clients initially think about things like, oh, I can't imagine it being that color because I would get tired of it quickly.
Yeah.
It's like think about and going back to fashion, right? Um, it's funny because in your image on your website, you're wearing your old school Vans slip-on
Hmm.
checkerboards.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had those when I was 9. And they're
Classic.
still like I still love those shoes,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Right.
nothing's changed. Nothing's
Nothing's
changed.
changed. It's a classic.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about a kitchen, like someone should love the fact that they still love the style of their kitchen 30, 40, 50 years after it's been done. And that's what classics do,
Mhm.
right? And the jewel tones just don't seem to get old. But what you did was you paired it with whites, off whites, wood. There's a lot of texture here.
Yes.
The other thing that I love too, talk me through the process of the island and the seating and the kitchen. I love a kitchen table in a kitchen, like a real eat-in kitchen.
Agreed. Yeah.
Love that. But you didn't sacrifice the island. You
Right.
included it with the table. Walk me through that
Actually,
idea.
yeah. So I actually expanded the island. So they are avid cooks, which is funny. A lot of my clients like to cook. I do not cook, but I love to design a kitchen. And so we, on the front part of the island, I did a waterfall butcher block that is food safe, ready to go. They chop on it, do all the things. And then married that with the countertop. And then from there, brought the banquette seating, which is also built in. And the reason why I did this was because when you see that little bar area down further, that used to be an open arch to the living room. And they needed a place for a bar and a daily catch-all because straight through there is the mudroom where you enter through the garage. What was happening though is whenever you came through the garage, through that hallway, to get to the backyard for the kids to play, they were running into the kitchen table. It was poorly placed. Bad case of design just from the home itself. So that's when I was like, okay, we need to scoot this back and create one large unit. And normally that would be really hard for me to get a client to get on board with, I feel like, because I'm technically taking away that breakfast room area as a pass through. But what I did was extend the island. I gave them more room. And then on top of that, I mean, to this day, she's like, this is my favorite spot. We sit here as a family. We do homework here. We play board games. Like it's comfort. It's comfort in a kitchen. And a kitchen shouldn't just be utilitarian, I don't believe. I think it needs to have comfort to it. And so I love that we were able to do that with this arrangement. So yeah, that's where it all came from. There was just the pass through was poor, basically. It wasn't functional.
You know what's interesting too? Pre-pandemic, and again, I think this is really, really interesting. You would not see alcohol bottles on the shelf.
Right.
Rarely, you know, a New York or an LA project, but certainly not a Texas project. I don't recall seeing many, if any, open
Yeah,
bar uh, in Texas, in editorial about Texas projects. That's one of the things that has changed just dramatically. Is
I
this,
designed so many bars.
do you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
I mean, we do full on walk-in refrigeration rooms. Like, yeah, it has been a big change for sure.
Yeah. And then the lighting plan for this, just looking at the kitchen, because
Hmm.
there's so much to see, but I'm going to assume that Recessed was edited out.
Yeah, they were.
Okay.
Now
Um,
there are outlets and lights under those shelves. So
do
I
you
do that a
also
lot.
do you also uh, put lighting at the base of the cabinetry?
Like a toe kick light.
Yeah,
Depends on the house, but yes, some I do. This one does not.
interesting. Then that bathroom. It's interesting too because are you a big fan of teal, or was the client a big fan of teal?
Nope, that's one of their favorite colors. Mauve and teal.
Love it.
Yeah,
Absolutely love it. That shower's amazing.
thank you. And I mean, the shower was done, like I said, in 2019, and I think it still stands, it's bold, but it's still classic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
Thanks.
Very, very cool. Then one of the other ones I wanted to ask you about is funny. It's Highland Park.
Okay. Yes.
So again, it's one of these super clean, let's call it an off-white kitchen because it's not really a white kitchen, but it certainly is an off-white. And I'm assuming too that this is in Highland Park.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, Highland Park, but Highland Park, Austin,
Highland Park, Austin. Okay,
not
thank you.
Dallas. And then I need like backstory with this house. This client bought this house already built.
Okay.
So that kitchen was already done. We changed out the beams and lighting in there. We kept the foundation of the kitchen. This house had a full renovation addition to it. And the original builder came back to do the project. And so, what we did was we actually changed out all the windows and doors and then redid, uh, added bathrooms and such. So I can't take full credit for that off-white kitchen there because that off-white was there.
Sure, you can totally take credit
I
for it.
changed the lighting
Perfect. That made all the
and the
difference.
beams in the windows.
What is your scope of work? Because it's funny, you're not just that was not meant in a derogatory fashion,
No,
but
you're
you're not exclusively interiors.
correct.
You get into the construction, you get into the
Yes.
um has that always been the case since you started your firm, or was that an addition to what your services are?
Um, it's kind of always been the case because that was the best way to get a job,
Mm.
to to be honest. By understanding the process and being able to come in. I did a lot of kitchens and baths in the beginning because that's where people feel the need to hire a designer, especially when you're at entry level trying to start out. You've got to take those jobs. So I I mainly work new construction or full home renovation and then furnish the house after that. And so I like to start with the architect during conceptual phase and work through. That's kind of where most of my projects land scope wise. So they're about a 2-year project.
Got it. And this one's interesting too because you have the Austin stone both on the exterior and the interior, which I think is really cool.
Yes. So that actually was a pain point for our client that we had to make into beauty. And so we actually removed some of the stone on the exterior and brought in that mid-century brick. This client liked very tailored, masculine, traditional with a balance of modern.
It really is a great balance too. Going to the exterior,
Mhm.
and looking at the cladding and looking at, so I can totally, or is that brick?
So it's 3 products, actually 4. We have, which is crazy because usually you don't ever want to use more than 3 on a house, but
Yeah.
the house needed it. It was so flat. So we removed, well, we went over stucco where you see the metal cladding in the center, the vertical metal.
Yeah.
That was brought in because it was just like everything was falling so flat with just having brick and stone. And where you see brick around that dining room window used to be stone. And
Mm.
we removed that stone and brought the brick in and then added stone to the columns. They used to just be metal. And so they were kind of like just there. They had no substance to them. So we definitely had a play of like bringing in, removing stone, but yet bringing it in places that had more purpose and meaning.
And it sounds to me like a lot of your projects are multi-year, like they take some time.
Yes, yes, they do. Most of them, they're about a 2 to 3 year project.
So how many projects do you have ongoing on a regular basis? What's
I
the sweet
currently,
spot?
so I currently have 10, but they're all in different phases. I would say out of my 5 new construction, 3 are in construction process right now, and 2 are in where I'm designing furniture. So usually when the construction process starts, I typically start the project with the architect. That takes about a year from the date I come in and I do all the finishes and work on the millwork and things like that. And I hand it over to them. They put it in the drawings. Then we go to pricing and then we bid for the builder. That's generally how it starts, or the builder is involved from the beginning, but nothing gets finalized until that point. Then the build takes about 18 to 24 months, depending on the size of the house and where it is. My projects out in the hill country, I say take a lot longer because we have so much digging and engineering to do with the lay of the land. It's different. So most of them are about 2 years on average. Yeah.
So you have to have a very close relationship with the architect as well as the builder.
Yes. Yes.
Um, where does your scope of work end? It doesn't sound to me like you end at just the interior. So you're working on the exterior
Yes. So
as
I do
well.
exterior finishes as well.
So are you doing a lot of outdoor kitchens?
Absolutely.
Would you say that with your projects, that is a 50%, 80%, 100%,
Yeah, 100.
100. Really, everyone wants an outdoor
We live
kitchen.
in Texas. Everyone wants an outdoor kitchen. Yes.
Well, it's interesting because living in Texas, sometimes an outdoor kitchen is just not as comfortable.
Yeah, I see that. But living in Texas too, we're used to it. So it's kind of like, the 1 or 2 months when you're gonna just swelter and die, but it's gonna be okay. But we
Yeah.
also do a lot of screen shades that we build.
What are you finding is the baseline for your outdoor kitchens as far as the detail? Are you seeing clients asking for a matchy, almost like a book matched outdoor kitchen to match the indoor kitchen? Are you looking for an entirely different space? Are you finding everything from refrigeration, ice maker, warming drawer? I mean, the whole thing, or are you finding them streamlined? What is I even I'm reticent to even say trend, but
Mhm.
that is how trends work. What is the
Right.
ask for outdoor kitchens?
So a lot of it is space constraints. So it does depend on if it's new construction or not and what we have. But I mean, I put dishwashers outside and we do a lot of beverage fridge, grills with a like a stove top, fryers, and flat irons. So
And
pretty,
what?
and the flat iron skillets.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, it is a kitchen in itself. And I mean, I'll say personally at my own home, like I put all of that in the outdoor kitchen because I like for the mess to be outside and not inside. So
Totally.
take it outside, so, and that happens a lot. And it's great when entertaining because everyone is out there together.
Yeah.
Just kind of
Yeah.
the culture.
N- I love that. Last question I had for you, and I'm just curious, what's the origin of the studio name?
Blueberry is my daughter's nickname. When I was pregnant, I craved blueberries, and so that's what we called her before we knew we were having a daughter. And we still call her Blueberry to this day. Close family and friends do too. Jones is completely made up. It's just like an all-American last name. And again, it's me not wanting to be the person in front. It's the mystery of who is the person behind it.
There is so much to unpack there.
Of
Like
course.
a creative who loves putting out work like yours, who does not necessarily want an eponymous firm name because you want to be able to sort of sit behind it or sit behind the backstory. I guess you've created a
Yeah.
char you've have you created a character in Blueberry Jones?
No. No, I
Is that your
probably
alter ego?
probably, yeah.
Well, I
Because
love it.
I'm an introvert, and that's the funny thing is that I'm an introvert creative, and so it allows me to be creative and out there while still remaining close and introverted.
So curious, are you wholly introverted or are you an external introvert or an introverted? I mean, do you know?
I
And
would
there's a
say
big
I could
difference.
be, yeah, introverted in crowds and people 100%. Um, Extroverted around people that I know and are familiar and comfortable with, extroverted in my work for sure. Which is why I learned very early on that I had to hire people to handle things for me, like my publicist, social media, because I won't do that myself. And I didn't forever, and you have to. So those were, key for me to know this is a weakness, give it a strength.
Okay, so you were nervous when we started. Are you still nervous? You don't seem to be nervous anymore.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No, I feel fine.
All right. Well, you did a great job. Thank you for
Thank
doing this.
you.
Thank you for coming on and talking to me.
Thank you
I
very
love
much.
your work.
I appreciate it. It means a lot. It really does.
The Design Hardware Showroom is a space where specifiers can go and find an incredible selection of high-end faucets, luxury tile, natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware, and so much more. Select products are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. You will find everything you're looking for, even the products by brands you didn't know you didn't know. Surprise and delight. Am I right? All under one roof on 3rd Street in Los Angeles, just up the street from the Grove. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find inspiration, collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your specification list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com, at Design Hardware and Flooring on the socials, or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles. That was Lindsie Davis of Blueberry Jones. Thank you, Lindsie, so much for taking the time. You are a designer with a sharp eye, a creative spirit, and a grounded understanding of how to make spaces work beautifully and meaningfully for the people who trust you to craft them. Your story is a reminder that design is rarely a straight line. It's a winding road of experiments, pivots, passion, and perseverance. Whether Lindsie's imagining a kitchen, collaborating with architects on multi-year projects, or navigating the changing landscape of Texas design, Lindsie brings intentionality and warmth to every corner she touches. So, Lindsie, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, share it with a friend who loves design. Subscribe to Convo by Design wherever you get your podcasts, and continue the conversation on Instagram at Convo by Design with an X. And please keep those emails coming with guest suggestions and show ideas. I love to see them. Convo by Design at outlook.com. Thank you to my incredible partner sponsors, TimberTech, the AZEC Company, Pacific Sales, Best Buy, and Design Hardware. These companies support the shelter industry, so give them an opportunity on your next project. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, stay focused and rise above the chaos.